Your Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. Why is a strategic plan important for a studio to survive? The steps to creating a strategic plan. And finally, what are the mistakes to avoid? All of that and more coming up in today's episode. Thank you for listening to the fitness industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers. The Fitness Business Podcast strives to provide a weekly educational platform for our listeners. The variety of international guests are here to share their expert advice, knowledge, and tips with you, our FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by Tribe Team Training.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family. I am your host, Dory Nugent, and welcome to episode number 360 from the Fitness Business Podcast. I don't know about you, but I am excited to get this week's interview underway. So let's get started. Fitness Business Podcast family, I am excited to introduce this week's guest. It is Christa Gurka. She is the founder and CEO of Pilates in the Grove. Christa, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thanks, Dory, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Yes. So our boutique fitness owners or managers or even just employees of the boutique fitness world, they're really going to enjoy what you have to talk about today, because you're going to talk about the one thing that every boutique studio owner needs to survive. So are you ready to tell us what that one thing is?
I am ready, and I am so excited to talk about this conversation because I think that it is a critical piece to the longevity of every boutique fitness studio owner. And what that is a strategic plan to get customers in the door, to sell to them, and then to make them raving fans. So I guess the one thing is a strategic plan, but what we want is a strategic plan for each and every touch point, how you get them in the door, how you sell to them, and how you keep them coming back.
All right. So I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. Why is a strategic plan important to survive? And for all of our listeners out there, how do you suggest that the owner implements this?
Perfect. Great questions. The reason it's important is because a goal without a plan is just a wish. I think that's a saying. I mean, there's a lot of quotes about that. So oftentimes we see people say things like, even if they set goals, they say something like, oh, I want to generate $100,000 this year in revenue. Well, saying that is the same as somebody saying, I want to lose 200 pounds this year, but how are you going to do that? How are you going to break it up? It's how do you get over that hump, right? And things can only be improved if they're measured. So we must have a plan, because winging it will only work for a certain period of time before it burns you out as a business owner. And what we see in boutique fitness a lot is, business owners get burnt out and they become miserable and then they don't love it. And we all went into business because we love what we do, right? So how does an owner implement a strategic plan? Well, first off, there's a great book. It's called you start with the end in mind, right? And so you want to start with your end in mind. What is your ultimate goal? And it could be anything. It could be a numbers goal. It could be a revenue goal. It could be to have impact 1,000 people, whatever the goal is. And then you work backwards from there. So you reverse engineer it monthly, quarterly, weekly. And then the other thing I would ask is, ask for help from someone who has been there before, from someone who has gone before you, and ask them to help you devise this strategic plan for your business.
Okay, Christa, that was a great start. So let's take it a step further. And I'm going to actually ask you, what are the steps to create the plan?
Perfect. I love going over this. The way I say is I think that there are 5 pillars, I would say, to business strategy, right? And especially when you're talking about a service related business, which we are all in. The first one is attraction, right? So there's the attraction stage of customer acquisition, is how are you going to attract people that know nothing about your business, right? People that don't know who you are, don't know they have a problem maybe, and that you're the solution to their problem. Once you start to grow that know, like, and trust factor, then what you want to do is nurture them, right? You want to engage with them. You want to get them to think like they want to go have dinner with you, or a glass of wine, right? Or a drink, or kombucha, depending on what kind of industry you're in, right? Then after that is when you want to sell. And the way that I say sell is I like to say invite or offer, because we truly don't have control over whether they choose to buy or not. What we want to just think of it is we're inviting them to join us, but they ultimately have the choice. And the mistake I see people make a lot is they jump right to sell. So they skip attract and nurture and they go right to sell. And that would, I kind of say it's like, imagine if you're at a cocktail party with a bunch of friends and somebody just comes in late and is like, hey, I have all this Tupperware to sell to you. Who wants to buy it? It would be really awkward. You want to introduce yourself to them. You want to have something in common with them. Then you invite them to maybe buy what you're selling. Then you have serve, which I also think a lot of people forget about this. They're always worried about attracting new customers, getting new leads, but we want to serve the people we have. We want to serve them hard. We want to love on our community really, really, really well, because that leads to high retention, which is the last phase. And the more we can create raving fans that stay in our business, the less we have to spend on getting new customers. It costs about, depending on what you read, anywhere from 7 to 10 times more to get a new customer than to retain a current customer. And so that's the way that I like to work at it. How you devise a plan for how you're going to attract people, how you're going to nurture them, how you're going to sell to them, how you're going to serve them, and how you're going to keep them coming back.
Okay, so I love the 5 items that you bunched together. I like that. I think that's very clear. So let's talk about the people that you are attracting and the people you are inviting, the people that you are nurturing. I think you referred to them as your community. Mm-hmm. So you got to know your community. And I know that that's super important, but what do you think the reason for knowing your community for these boutique fitness is? Is it for customer service reasons? Is it marketing reasons? Is it for retention? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's for all of the above. And I'll tell you why. Understanding who your I like to use the term community, and I actually got this from Amy Porterfield. She started calling people her community instead of client. And I always had a really hard time with that ideal client avatar, because I was like, it's not one person, it's kind of a community of people, right? So I started to use the word community. And when we truly get to the bottom of what our community needs and wants are, we can really tap into them on an emotional level. And the truth is, people buy why you do what you do, not necessarily what you do. And they buy from people that they know, like, and trust. If we think of restaurants or different services that we frequent, a lot of times it's not that they have the best product or service. Sometimes it's how they make us feel. That local bagel shop on the corner maybe serves, mediocre bagels, but they know your name and they know your dog's name and they know what you want and they know how you want your coffee when you come in. So you go back all the time, right? So when I talk about ideal community, I want to know who I'm trying to attract, because if you're attracting everyone, you're attracting no one. So you have to attract people that are going to align with who you are as a business and what your mission is. So really understanding your community for that reason is important. Then when you offer to them or when you invite them, understanding what they value is truly important too. So let's give a perfect example for fitness. fitness right now, right? Depending on what kind of market you're in, if people have to sit in an hour's worth of traffic, or, it's difficult to park around your establishment, and you see that this is what your ideal customer is, maybe you have a service that's a more concierge service that you can go to them and their office, and that's what you're selling. Convenience, right? And you're selling that they're actually saving money because now they don't have to leave their office for an hour and park. Or maybe you have live streaming or on-demand services because that's a value add to your customer. So understanding them at that level helps you sell to them. And then your customer service aspect is, what is it that do they appreciate having water in the lobby? Do they appreciate having clean towels in the bathroom? Those little tiny things make a huge difference. I started noticing that people would come with bigger bags into our studios. And so one of the things that I did was I made our cubby area larger so they could put their entire bag into this section. And then I put a little area in a bathroom. We had huge bathrooms. We didn't have changing rooms. And I just took a bench that I bought at IKEA and I put it in the bathroom, and people started telling me how much they appreciate that because they didn't have to put their bags on the floor. They could put their bag on the bench and get changed and sit and put their shoes on. It's a little thing like that could go a long way with people.
So how do you convince your community to not only invest in your service, but really to make themselves look at it as they're investing in themselves so they continue to come back? How does that fit into the strategic plan?
It fits in really perfectly. And when we do our ideal customer avatar, our ideal community, we actually name her. She has a name. Her name is Georgia. And whenever we talk about anything, we actually say, what would Georgia think? Would Georgia like this? Would Georgia not like this? How would she tell her friends about this? So when we have our strategic meetings, we name this person. And so it's almost like she's sitting at a meeting with us. And so when we talk about, we want to know what do they value? And so we all know in health and wellness that consistency is the key to improvement, right? So as fitness professionals, we want to keep our clients, we want to help them achieve their goals. How do you achieve your goals, right? You achieve your goals by doing things consistently. It's repetition. So if you take what we do in fitness and tell our clients it's reps, it's about doing it, 10,000 repetitions to become an expert, we just translate that into how we sell to them. So I actually do recommend that small boutique businesses try to sell memberships as much as possible. And the way that we encourage our clients to transition into a membership is we show them the value. So it's usually a lower price point, which means it's a lower barrier to entry for them. And then we do a huge value add for that. So if you're a member, you get, if we do workshops at the studio, which we do from time to time, you get that for free. You get access to our on-demand platform for free because once it's created, it doesn't cost us any more money to add that to one person. And whether they use it or not use it, it's just considered a value stack so that when you can give the true value of the membership, it is much larger than actually just the classes. And if people want to do packages, that's fine because for them, if it's convenient, they don't want to be tied into a membership. That's more important to them, so they're willing to pay a higher price point. So that's how we sell it to them, right? We say like, here's the membership option. You'll get a lower price point. It's gonna be on auto pay. You can cancel, with X amount of notice. But if that's not where you're at and you're not sure how much you want to come, no problem. We have a 10 class pack for you. It's X amount of dollars. And the way we call it, by the way, your investment. We don't call it cost. We say your investment for this membership is X, your investment for this package is this, because people think when you think of the term investment, you think that there's a return on your investment, which obviously there will be when they take part in the services that you as a business owner will provide to them.
Yeah. And how much do you at the Pilates studio put into using the word investment as far as having the customer look at themselves and how much the investment has made a change in their life or their mental health or just their overall well-being?
We use it a lot in everything we do. It's in when we see them improving in class, we will give them a shout out and say, and we talk about this in our strategic meetings with my team, just even saying, hey, Dory, I really noticed that so Pilates is my business, right? So Dory, I really noticed that you were able to do that teaser today. That's so great. That's amazing. And I don't say like, I'm proud of you. I said, congratulations on putting in the work to do it, right? Everything in our business is geared around our mission statement is to empower our customers to live the life they desire and deserve. It has nothing to do with Pilates. It just is, we want to create an establishment where people feel so good about themselves, they want to keep coming back. And the way that we feel we impact people is that if they feel good about themselves when they leave our studio, they are going to then transcend that feeling into their community, into their household, into their friends and family. And that's how I believe as business owners in fitness and health and wellness, we can impact more than just the hour they spend with us inside the studio.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I take some classes at a local bar studio, and it's more of an emotional thing for me because it's like when I leave there, I feel I feel good. I feel good about myself. It makes me want to go back. The workout itself doesn't necessarily make me want to go back. The squats, the plies, all that stuff, but it's just how it makes me feel. And you're right. They know my name, whether they know me or not, I don't know, but they know my name. And I'm like, I kind of like that. You fall for it a little bit,
It's great. I mean, I can tell you, like, even as females, right? I mean, I'll never forget this story. And this is where it totally changed for me. I was at a wedding. This is a little off tangent, but I was at a wedding and I was in a really bad mood. I didn't think I wanted to be there. I think I was going because it was my husband's coworker's friend, but I was in the bathroom and some, girl, I don't know who she is. Another woman said, "Those are amazing shoes. I love them." And I was in an instant changed from crotchety to, oh my God, that made me feel really good. And so that's kind of where that whole smile thing of a lesson you learn at a young age in business, just making somebody else's day just with a little something can change their entire outlook on life. And what a great feeling that is to be able to turn someone's day around like that.
So I love how you can use the word change, because I'm going to now use that to kind of segue into my next question for you. And that is, over the years, I'm sure with your strategic planning, you had to make changes. You had to adapt. You probably have mistakes that you've made along the way. Could you share with those boutique owners and managers that are out there listening, maybe some of the mistakes that you've made with your strategic plan, just so that they can avoid the same mistake going forward?
Yeah. So I will say, just when I first started my business, I knew nothing about business. And when I say nothing, I mean like zero, zilch, nada. I had an idea. I thought the community needed it. I didn't know what an operating agreement was. I didn't know what a partnership was. I didn't know anything. I thought P&L stood for like poppin' and lockin'. I really didn't know anything. So I have learned a lot in the last 10 years. And the number one change that I've had to make over the last 10 years was in me personally. So starting as a business owner who was the product, moving into kind of like a leadership position and transitioning from leadership into CEO and visionary has been the biggest hurdle for me to overcome. And so I've made mistakes in hiring the wrong people. I've made mistakes in letting the wrong people stay on the ship too long because I wasn't brave enough to ask them to politely leave. I've been a control freak. And I think a lot of our listeners, I'm sure a lot of your listeners as business owners, I hope I'm not insulting you, but I know all of you can resonate with that, especially if we're small business owners. It's our baby and we feel that we have to control everything, but control is the number one thing that stifles innovation and trust in teams. And so you'll never get out of that feeling like you have to do everything if you don't allow people to do their job. And by the way, and I'm saying I'm almost talking to myself. And I've learned I've had to allow my team to do their job. I've had to hold them accountable for things. And so myself getting out of that scarcity mindset of saying, I can ask for help has opened up a plethora of opportunities for me and for my team. And I think COVID, at the time of this recording, we are hopefully on that coming out of it. But that time during the shutdown, I think did wonders for my business because I wasn't able to be there micromanaging everybody. I had to be separated, and people they stepped up, and I actually, we just had our quarterly meeting for the beginning of Q2. And I actually apologized to my team. And I said, I am working on myself to be the leader and boss that you all deserve. And I am sorry for all those years that if you felt micromanaged. And I think it takes leaders create other leaders. They don't create little task rabbits. So that is what has changed. Myself, my outlook, and understanding that mistakes are going to happen. And what we do what they can do is give you the idea of what you can do next time to avoid the mistake, rather than saying it's not achievable to say mistakes will never happen. That's not an achievable goal.
What do you think, as a boutique fitness owner, the future looks like for that industry?
I will be honest that I am very excited about the future of boutique fitness. It was a scary time for several months. We saw some big names dissolve, liquidate, some big names. So it was a little scary. For myself personally, and some of the other industry leaders that I've chatted with, I think it looks bright because I think that as people start coming back out into civilization and the world, people are going to want smaller, intimate spaces. I think people are going to want a niche where they can go in and they can know it's clean and they can know who's been in there and it's a little bit more controlled. For myself, as a Pilates studio, the benefit to us is we don't have something that everyone has in their home. Not everyone has a reformer studio. So we're going to lean into that hard, that you can come back here. You can, experience a great, clean establishment. We control the environment. And I think that if we as a boutique fitness industry are willing to adapt and change and listen to what the new customer coming out of COVID wants, the future is going to be bright. We are not going to compete with Peloton and Apple that are coming out with their own versions of, wearables and things like that. But that's not who we have to compete against. There is 325 million Americans in this country. That is more than enough business to go around. Most of us only need a couple hundred to be consistent, right? And be profitable. So that's the way we have to look at it. So I'm optimistic.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are 3 tips that boutique fitness owners can do to implement a strategic plan?
So the 3 tips I would recommend to implement a strategic plan for any fitness business owner is, number 1, start with the end in mind. Decide where it is you want to go, and that is the end. Then you reverse. So tip number 2 is reverse engineer that. How are you going to back into that end goal? And then step number 3 would be ask for help. Ask someone who has gone before you that is willing to help you devise this plan, and then also how you can implement it.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Now, back to our show. Well, Christa, it was such a pleasure having you on the show today. I love when our boutique studio owners come on. It's a little change of pace. It's always a fun topic.
Well, thank you, Dory, so much. And I really hope your listeners took a little bit of a tidbit with them today, and it helps boost their confidence or that allows them to level up their practice.
I love Christa's positive attitude and energy. And I want to say thank you, Christa, for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with our boutique family out there that joined in on today's episode. It's now time to hear from our sponsor, Raw Athletics.
Did you know that the active ingredient in most disinfecting wipes has well-documented lung, skin, and reproductive health concerns? That active ingredient is called a quaternary ammonium compound, or a quat, not necessarily something you'd want in a health and wellness facility. VaporFresh disinfecting gym wipes avoid all quats and instead use an innovative citric acid chemistry to disinfect. Even with this greener chemistry, VaporFresh is still EPA registered to disinfect 99.9% of surfaces. VaporFresh is trusted by some of the most premier gyms and college rec centers nationwide. With 1,200 wipes per roll and 4 rolls per case, they offer an unbeatable value per wipe. Order today at vaporfresh.com or Amazon.
Quickfire 5.
Coming up next is upcoming guest Christian Swan hitting it out of the park with the Quick Fire 5 questions. All right, it is time, everybody, for our Quick Fire 5 questions. And this week's guest is Associate Professor in Psychology, Christian Swan. Christian, welcome to the Quick Fire 5 questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm excited.
Me too.
Here we go. Number 1. What's a business or life lesson you learned from one of the jobs you did when you were younger?
Yeah, so a key thing I learned was just how valuable listening can be. And I learned that while I was training to get registration as a sports psych back in the UK. And I had this real feeling that I needed to provide guidance and expert advice and, really try and help clients. But I quickly learned that just giving those people a chance to talk and be heard and to offload was often more valuable than anything I could say to them. So now I often come back to that lesson, and I find it really valuable in terms of management or just dealing with problems, dealing with people. And yeah, often I find that it can be as good as, if not better than, any advice that I can give.
Okay, perfect. Number 2, if you were not doing what you were doing now, what would you be doing?
So right now I'm an academic, so I work at a university. And if I wasn't doing this, then I would probably either be a golf coach or a sports psychologist. So my undergraduate degree and my PhD were both in golf. And I went through sports psychology training in the UK after that. So I would either be doing one of those, possibly golf coaching more than sports psych, because it means I would probably be able to play more.
All right. So if the daytime gig doesn't work, we're going to see you on the PGA Tour. Is that what you're saying?
I'm definitely not saying that, no.
All right. Well, how about when you write your autobiography? What do you think the title will be?
I would need someone else to come up with my title because I'm really not very good at sort of the creative, catchy stuff like that. So I would be happy to forego whatever small amount of money that my autobiography would bring in and get someone else to come up with something catchy for me instead.
All righty. And now, how about a book? Is there a book that you could recommend for our FBP family?
Absolutely. So one of my favorite books is called Legacy by James Kerr. And it's really about leadership lessons that he learned from the All Blacks. I'm sure many of your fans will be familiar with it, but I find it brilliant in terms of just being really practical and useful and covering everything from culture to leadership to management to performance. So yeah, for me, it's a really easy go-to.
Perfect. I just finished that book. So
did you enjoy it?
I did. I listened to it. I'm an audiobook gal. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it was good.
Yeah,
very good. And finally, Christian, you are going to give us your best sales pitch on why our listeners should come back next week to hear your wisdom.
Absolutely. So everyone knows that goal setting is a really important strategy in the fitness industry. And the key way we've been setting goals for decades now is using SMART goals. But the latest research that's coming out is telling us that the way we set goals is changing and we need to do it differently. So if your fans or family come back next week, then we'll talk about why things are changing and what we should be doing instead when we set goals.
All right. Well, I look forward to talking with you next week. And I know all of our FBP listeners out there are just as excited. So Christian Swan's coming back next week, and he's going to talk about goal setting, how it's evolved, and the key to usage.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family. Sarah Pellegrino here, your host of The Value Proposition. Each month, I'm bringing you an insightful conversation with a different supplier so you can learn the value they bring to the industry above and beyond their product or service. Don't miss this month's episode, The Value Proposition for Engaging with Members Through Events with Les Mills. It goes live Friday, May 21st. Tune in if you're an owner or operator that is looking for tips and tricks on how to plan, promote, and safely bring members back to the club for engaging events. You'll also hear how industry experts are coming back strong with their group fitness programming. Download episode 361 of the Fitness Business Podcast, The Value Proposition for Engaging with Members Through Events with Les Mills, anywhere you listen to your podcasts or from our website. You can watch the vodcast on our YouTube channel or on our website, fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
Head on over to our show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com to connect with today's guest, Christa Gurka. Let's take a moment to hear a message from our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi, FBP family. It's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.